Chodi Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is happy. Anan bechavivusa talia milsa, and us, because of our great love for each other. Us, because of our great sweetness, because of our great connection and bond, we have no fear when it comes to receiving the greatest secrets of the entire universe. Because anan bechavivusa talia milsa, and we daven to Hashem, that Hashem open up our hearts to have love for our fellow. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamoicha, ze klal god b'Torah. That anan bechavivusa talia milsa, that we should have such chavivus and sweetness, and with that we can receive soid, can receive the greatest secret. Now sometimes people say, what is soid? What is Kabbalah? So what do you answer them? Hey, Rabbi Stern, what's Kabbalah?
I'm not a rabbi.
It's just understanding Hashem as much as we possibly are able to.
It's hidden Torah. It's It's what
so there's a hidden part of the Torah and there's a revealed part of the Torah. So how could I find it if it's hidden?
It's like when you can't find the ketchup and you're like looking in the fridge and then your mom looks for like 2 seconds and it's like right there.
So she knows where the hidden ketchup is. She knows the secret. It's true. Things are going on in the house. Like, do you know where our scrunchies are? All my girls. I'll help you, but I'm sure Ima knows. She knows where scrunchies end up, lost kippas. They're usually in the sleeve of like one of your boys' shirts. He takes out his shirt, he doesn't realize that the kippah lost itself in the sleeve. So there's things that certain people can't see. They're hidden for them. But other people who know a secret, they could find things that are hidden. I think a simple way to understand soid is to understand, like any relationship, when you first meet somebody, you speak about, the basic things, like what's your name? Where are you from? What's your favorite ice cream flavor? The basics. At the end of a first date with somebody, you would hope that you would know their name. And you would know where they're from, siblings, things like that. And as time goes on, you start to reveal more hidden things about them. More intimate things, more deeper fears, passions, dreams, hopes, desires, aspirations. I hope on the first date you don't say, can you tell me the deepest fear or the most traumatic thing you ever went through? Oh, by the way, what's your name? Oh, yeah, okay, fine, yeah. Now we'll get to that part. What's the deepest, most intimate part? These are things that take time and trust and safety. And as that time and that safety is built, then a person can reveal, they can open up. So too the Torah. The Torah has elements which are the revealed part, and those are things that right away, what's your name? Where are you from? This is what I expect of you. These are the basics of the 613, how to have a good life, how to connect to God. But then there's deeper realms of intimacy that Hashem doesn't reveal right away. See, can I trust you? Are you faithful? Are you, as Reb Shimon mentioned, are you a holiest Rachel? If you're a holiest Rachel, I can't be Magala the side. A holiest Rachel, like we said yesterday, is somebody that when he hears something, it's not settled inside of him. So I can't just be sharing things. Can I trust you? Are you a Ruach Ne'eman? And if you're somebody that I can trust, I could share things with. Because I believe you'll know what to do with that information. If somebody tells somebody a deeply traumatic thing, so that's very, they need a lot of trust there. If somebody just says like, this is my name. It's a big secret though, it's my name. Well, we all know, it's like a well-known thing, your name. It's not such a secret, but like a real deep experience, there needs to be trust that's built. So I think that's what Kabbalah is. Inside. It's things that come out, deeper parts of the relationship that come out through trustworthiness. And the more trustworthy that you are to Hashem, so Hashem says, I'll reveal things to you. I'm happy to. And Reb Shimon was... Then there's certain people that are the ultimate faithful, like it says about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was the Eved Ne'emanhu. B'kol beisi ne'emanhu. Moshe Avdi. It says about Moshe Rabbeinu. That I love that language. B'kol beisi ne'emanhu. He's trustworthy in my entire home. You know, there's certain people you let into your home. And you kind of sanction off areas for them to go into. You cordon off, you can come into the dining room, living room, but there's like the West Wing, which is a little bit more private things that are happening there.
Upstairs.
Or the upstairs area of a house. You have a party, so can we go upstairs? That's like my parents' bedroom's there. That's not where we're having the party, guys. You understand? Then there's certain people, maybe, let's say, like a close family friend. He doesn't have to ask to go upstairs. He goes upstairs all the time. Could be he even grew up in the house, with you. But there's certain places, even, you don't go in the parents' room. There's certain places you're not allowed to go. It's not. Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem says, Kol beisi ne'eman, you could go anywhere in my home. Forget about if you have some crazy, you're like a king, and you have chambers upon chambers, and things where you keep certain hidden treasures and jewels and special archives of national secrets. So kol beisi ne'eman, the more that you're trustworthy to God, Hashem says, I'll let you into my hidden chambers. So now we turn this back on us. To the degree that I could be faithful to God. People say, what are the qualifications of learning Kabbalah? So this is really it, am I faithful? And to the degree that I'm faithful, and I'm not interested in other things, so the Torah can reveal herself. I say that specifically. She can reveal herself in deeper ways. So how do we get there also? Anan b'chavivusa talia milsa. One of the ways of showing faithfulness is that when we learn together in a way of love, in a way of Lakute Cafe, in a way of open bar, all you could drink, an espresso, there's a certain ava, there's a certain love, an aroma that fills the air. And that helps build an environment of anan b'chavivusa talia milsa, that's now allowing Hashem to say, I see that you guys, you get along well down here. You're faithful to each other. There's a love here. I can now reveal things to you as well. So let's mamish begin. So Rav Nachman made this statement yesterday at the beginning of the Torah. Ali de amunas chacham. I'm telling you, this first line has gotten me Reb Nosson did something to me yesterday on the porch. Then, with the tzimtzum.
Me too. So good.
This first line, even the simple reading of the line, through emunas chachamim, healthy connection to what the rabbis represent, you could take your mishpatenu la'or. That's such an interesting. Also, hotzi yochaylin lahotzi mishpatenu la'or. Mishpat for sure is a word of tzimtzum. Once Rav Nosson opened that whole door up, and or is something you're going before tzimtzum, you could take out the mishpatenu la'or. And remember the context of this entire Torah where there was a lot of judgment. There were judgments that were coming to the Jewish people. And we wanted mishpat, which is also justice, to be served. We wanted to restore justice. Remember also, the challenges come to the Jewish people because mipnei avanusseinu Rabbi, because we're not doing something correct. It's not to diminish somebody who's doing something, God forbid, terrible to a Jew. but it also puts responsibility on us, the Jewish people. Are we stepping up our game? Are we being faithful enough? Let's just go forward a little bit, but we're going to be looping back to this first, not a pasuk, this first line of Reb Nachman. And through believing in real transmission of Torah greats, we start mitigating judgments. Mishpat, which is challenging. We start mitigating that. We start pushing away the tzimtzum. We start moving beyond, back up to a place of awe. Lahoitzi mishpateinu la'or. To bring out from the shofet back to light. So let's see. Ki mishpat hu amuda de'emtza isa. That's also an interesting line. What do we usually associate mishpat with? With din. I would have thought it would have been on the left side. All of a sudden here, Rabbeinu says, oh, mishpat is the amuda de'emtza isa. Now what's this whole inyan that he's talking about? The middle pillar. You know what that's kuloi Kabbalah. The middle pillar. What kind of pillar are we talking about here? Boys, there's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. What do you say?
It's like your tefillin is Gevura and Chesed, but they connect in the back.
Oh,
So
the middle.
The middle part.
Yes, we are talking about the middle part. What are these pillars?
Mishpat sounds more like Gevura.
That's right.
Also like Chevera.
That's right.
Also, as far as I know, we're not supposed to learn laws before we go to sleep. Like we're not learning Mishnah at night because it's judgment. We're learning oral Torah, but we're not learning. We're not learning Chumash. We're not at night, so because it's more judgment. We're learning something more recent.
Okay, beautiful. Beautiful.
Is it connected or the discussion or not? That's okay.
You're connecting din and chesed, but how do we get the din, which I would have thought is mishpat? Justice, judgment, law, bein dam ledam, bein din ledin, being able to differentiate mutter, aser, kosher, treif, posel.
Mishpat means both Gevura and Chesed.
So I think that's where he's going to go with this. Because in order to get to true mishpat, you have to be able to balance. On the side of chesed, chesed is all flow. The flow master. If everything is about flow for you, will you have the right judgment? Let's even call it the way that you judge situations, the way that you assess a situation. If you're a flow master, you're on the side of chesed. Chesed means an unbridled flow. Unbridled, like the Niagara Falls. Just unbridled power and energy. That unbridled flow in a situation that requires you to be more specific, are you going to have the kalim to diminish that flow? No, you need to have din. You need to kind of stop the flow. You have to say, ad kan v'suloi. This is permitted, but this, beyond that line, that's not going to be permitted. The world of unbridled flow is a very lenient world, potentially. Everything is okay.
Because flow also takes you a little bit out of this world. It brings you up to the level of receiving from Hashem. But when you're in this world, which Hashem wants us to do, it's hard to act in the way that a Jew should act towards other people sometimes if you're just removed and in flow.
A flow master oftentimes has a hard time getting a job. Because a job, don't bog me down, I'm in the zone, I'm just kind of flowing. He has a hard time usually getting married. Because what do you mean, that's so limiting, you know what I'm saying? I just kind of do my thing. Whereas the din person, if it's only din but no flow, it's a very cold, rigid life. Clock in, clock out.
What do you mean by flow?
Flow means I'm connected to a higher energy that's flowing down, like Zach was saying, all the time. I'm invigorated with like this power. But I don't know I don't know how to stop myself. I don't know how to limit myself. I just want to be in this flow space.
This could connect with like Kabbalah.
Yeah, for sure. The Kabbalah, if you don't have that flow state, then there's no energy in the system. The flow is the beginning of the journey. Is you have to be able to receive some energy. That's why I like the analogy of Niagara Falls, which I like to come back to, which is, if you're thirsty, so where do you go for a cup of water? Niagara Falls. You're thirsty. Is that a good idea? I put the cup in. Yippee! It's not going to go so well. So what do you need? You need pipes. So for a flow master, it's not, you're piping up this thing, you're so limiting. I want the ultimate. The pipe is like, it's like so like you're like working for the man. Or you put on a suit, you're working for the man. You're Wall Street guy now. Oh, this is the big thing like the hippies. Like the hippies were like these flow masters. And then I remember back in the day when all the hippies, they started like going to work for like 9-to-5 jobs. And their hippie friends are like, oh, you sold out to the man. You're not a flow master anymore. It's like, no, don't judge me by the suit, bro. Like, I'm still a flow master. We could still hit the bong together, bro. I promise. You lost your soul. You're not one of us anymore. Whereas the flow master is not really making any money. And the guy who put on a suit could be he's making some money. But it could be that he's sapping his life force because he's losing the flow. I don't mean that hitting the bong is life force. I'm just trying to give a bit of an example. Is that you need the din to start creating structure. So back to the guy who's thirsty. So he wants some fluid. If you go to Niagara Falls, that's the problem. If you put it in a pipe, that's a good thing. But imagine you have a bunch of pipes, but you have no Niagara Falls. What do you have then? You've got a guy's probably working some job on Wall Street with no vitality, no purpose. He clocks in, he clocks out. Can you talk to me why you're doing all this? What do you mean? You just got to clock in and clock out. Like that's life, buddy. Why though? The flow state is connecting to the why. It's like flow is very powerful. You're connected to something. But the why wants you to be able to put it into, okay, how? And structure that. So then what's the ultimate when you go to the water fountain? Of course, non-chlorinated, fluorided, You go artesian, the reverse osmosis, spring spigot, and you put so that's Tiferes. That's the Tiferes, Shabbat Tiferes. That's going and being able to take the flow, put it through din, and then have an actual interface in a healthy way. That's the blend. That's really what mishpat is. Mishpat is how can I take all the sides and then judge this properly. Not strict judgment, but how can I take everything all together and then make a decision for it. Yossel.
Something that this reminds me of is like whenever you see the symbol for justice, it's always like two balanced scales. It's like we see on the cover of this book here. It's, we don't see the other, or actually it's on the back. But,
no, it's interesting. Sometimes you notice that the scales, have you noticed that, are sometimes tipped. There's nothing in them. It's like symbolic, or like tipped a little bit in one direction.
So to Adam Yusuf's mashal, or his, I guess, analogy as far as tying Tiferes in the middle pillar to the tefillin, you always have like on the side of Chesed, it's always a little bit longer.
That's right. That's right.
But
it says that Hashem built the world oilam Chesed yiboneh. That Hashem is always pushing more towards the side of flow. and chesed, that you shouldn't lose yourself in the din. You should be able to see that the world is about the relationship.
Also, to build on Adam Yosef's analogy, I was thinking about how, he was talking about how, it meets right in the middle, and that's, the middle pillar is, I was thinking about, the anatomy of the soul, about how, it hits your luz bone, right where the two head straps you have to fill in meat, and, it goes all the way down to, your tailbone, and, your spinal cord is, the middle pillar. It goes from, Chesed to, Yesod.
Beautiful. Mamish beautiful. According to the Arizal, yes, that is the luz bone. Rashi seems to indicate that the luz bone is the kokix, which is an interesting machloikas. Maybe you could say there's no machloikas. The Arizal was just talking about where the luz begins, and Rashi is talking about where the luz kind of culminates in the bottom. Exactly.
Things in the middle pillar.
Exactly.
As far as the old cut.
And it's fascinating because the luz bone is that bone symbolically that we're going to be resurrected from, which means to the degree that I could be an amuda de emtsa isa, I could be a middle pillar human being, that's going to be my merit of resurrection. And somehow all of this is happening through emunas chachamim, which you would indicate from that the chachamim, the real tzaddikim, are mamish the middle. Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. Those are the middle. And David, he's the middle. He's Malchus. Yosef is Yesod. Yaakov Avinu is Tiferes. These are the middle. These are Eila told us Yaakov Yosef. Who was Yaakov's main son that he gave everything to? It says Yosef. He's the middle. That's right. And who does Yosef ultimately pass it down to? That's the Yesod Malchus. That's David Malch Mashiach. That's the Melech. David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. So Rav Nachman says, Ki mishpatu amuda de emtze isa. Hainu, b'chinas derech hamemutza. It's the middle path. It's the central pillar, it's the middle path. Now, as Jews, we very much believe in the middle path. The derech habeinani. The middle way. We're Rambam Yidden here. The derech ha'emtza isa, the middle path. And by the way, Rav Nachman would caution people, be careful of being overly lenient, and be careful of being overly strict. Sometimes people can become a little bit too strict. Don't make a chumrah that comes ali de kula sometimes. Yeah.
I think the Rambam said, don't be on the way extreme of anything.
That's right. The derech habeinani. The derech habeinani means to go in the middle way, the middle road. That's the derech hamelech. The derech hamelech is the middle path. To be a balanced human being, a healthy, balanced human being, which includes your Torah observance. To be balanced.
Couldn't the chumrah help balance you out?
If you're a flow master, then yes, sometimes you may need to take on certain chumras. But those chumras ideally pull you back to the middle.
Already.
And the Rambam does mention this. If you have certain bad traits, let's say you're a lazy guy. So you're too far on one side. So he says, go to the opposite extreme and be a very, very active person. But he doesn't mean that you should do that forever. He means do that in order to be a normal, balanced person. But go to the other extreme. He said there's only, I believe, two things that you should be an extremist about. Only two traits. You should be actually humble. To have gaiva. What space is there for gaiva? Hashem is running everything. Koichi ve'oitzim yodi, to have gaiva. And anger. Anger, the Rambam says, you need to be extremely not angry. Anger is posel treif mamish. But don't we have such a situation where Hashem gets angry? He doesn't get angry. He shows angry. If a kid's running into the street, God forbid, and the parent is like, Yankel, would you mind slowing down? He has to yell at that kid, say, stop now! And show, but he can't be angry. Is to show anger. That the child is shaken up and know that you can't die. You have to live. So anger also has to be an extreme. Everything else, derech habeinani, middle path. So it's very important. Be careful when you come to yeshiva becoming too much of an extremist. So
When you show anger, maybe it will make you angry.
Be careful. Look at the tzaddikim. They're not showing anger all the time, but they just know well-placed times that it would have to be shown. Don't be an extremist. I'm talking about extremist in chumras, and taking on such, I'm so machmir. Because many times the chumras will come ali de kula.
For what people do it? For what they take the chumrah?
Sometimes people have this thing in yeshiva that everything is bittul Torah, including saying hi to somebody. Someone's like, Shalom Aleichem, bittul Torah. You can say I'm learning. That could come to a big kula not being nice to other people. Or they're very machmir about, hechsherim, they don't eat anything. Somebody invites you over for Shabbos. What's the hechsher? It's kosher. Can I come into the kitchen? Can your wife show me every single label of everything that she... We're talking about good Yirei Shamayim families. And it just, really, the guy's still struggling with Lashon Hara, but he made, kashrus his thing. And you really holding, really need to investigate every single label.
Yeah, but it depends where you go.
So I'm saying, you went to a Yirei Shamayim home. You went to a good home with Yirei Shamayim people. And in a place where he's not holding by that, because he heard of a tzaddik one time that's how he lives. There's many chumras a person could take on. He only wants to open up his own bottles of wine. There's such a chumrah. But there's no bottles of wine at all. So he's like, I don't know if I can even make kiddush anymore. Because my friend who I know keeps Shabbos opened the wine. I'm sorry, I don't know. And I make kiddush. I'm also machmer. I make kiddush. He doesn't really hold the mitzvah of Yosem Mishluch. He holds of that. I don't know. I hold mamish of the sugya that's better to do the mitzvah yourself.
I heard there's a concept that once you take something on, you're supposed to keep doing it as it becomes binding to you.
It is like a nether, and therefore you should make sure you get a bunch of rabbis around, and he can nullify that. They can nullify the nether for you. Yeah, you got to be careful with this stuff. Yeah, not pasha. Be very careful with that's why always better go in the middle path, balanced middle path. Go slow. Chumras we go slow. So Rav Nachman was against taking on all sorts of chumras, but also against being very lenient. That's the derech ha'emtza'isa. That's the middle path. How can we be middle, straight shooting people? Everybody likes exotic chumras, this exotic thing. People like it because it also means they kind of define themselves by some exotic thing. They're that guy that stands upside down on his head when he says Kiddush Levana. Because he heard one time a story of some tzaddik or something that stood upside down on his head and did a cartwheel afterwards. And then through that, he was able to have some segula for his teeth, not hurting anymore. So now his inyan is he's always standing upside down by Kiddush Levana. And he makes sure to do Kiddush Levana mamish the last second because he heard there's a chumrah to do it mamish the last possible moment when the Levana's mamish b'shlei Musa. They didn't realize that he's living, somewhere in, Northern Ireland in the middle of the winter that you could barely see the moon ever. It's always so cloudy. And he's no, but, and all of a sudden, on day 4, all the Irish Yidden are together, like, we never get to see the moon. Yanko, this is the time I hold. Okay, so if let's say it's 7 days, it's day 8. I can't believe the moon is out. Like, are you? I only wait until day 14 point. You're gonna miss the whole thing. It's my chumrah. Where did you get that from? I one time read a book about an inyan of a tzaddik that did something. Your chumrah is going to come to alidei kula. It's not balanced. Adam Yosef.
What's the point that it's OD and like normal?
What's OD?
Like
Bless you. Like overdoing it. I can't answer that question fully because it really is a personal. There are certain things, I don't want to diminish that there's certain things that you'll sensitize to that you do feel connected to. I'm not diminishing chumras, but I'm saying they have to be balanced. And I would say if you see that it starts coming alidei kulas, if it ever affects ben adam lechaveroi, your interpersonal relationships, that's going to be a big problem. A family member wants to take your grandparents, fly in to visit you, and they want to take you out, and they have like certain dietary restrictions, and they take you to a restaurant that's a good hechsher, but not like whatever you've decided. Can't eat, sorry. Or family members, you go to visit family members, and they take you to like you have a cottage, and they just want to be together at the cottage, and you guys are in the middle of like a boat ride together, and you realize like, in 4 hours the sun is going to be setting, and you realize the nearest mincha is only 4 hours away. And you decide, you know what, I have to go pray with a quorum of 10 Jewish men, so I'm going to be jumping off the boat, swimming back to shore, hopping in the car, driving 4 hours, getting back, 1 in the morning. They're like, you're going to miss the whole trip. Like, isn't God also here? Like, can you maybe pray like here? And, I can't. I have to pray with a quorum. And the guy's only like, 30 days into yeshiva life. I don't mean things that like, Rabbi Shimara would do. Also, they're not faced with certain things like this anymore. Because people understand, and the shalom bias around them understands that they're going to be praying with a minyan. But you have to always know in your life what's balanced. The derech emtza isa, the amuda de emtza isa. Bechinas derech hamemutza. She'ena noite liyamin v'lismol. It doesn't go to the right or go to the left. And now he says a very interesting, kind of straight explanation of how emunas chacham bring this to you. V'zeh zoichen alidei emunas chachamim. Shenemar. Shehu bechinas, like the pasuk says. Loi sosur min adover asher yagidu lecha yeminu small. The pasuk says that the sages, referring to the Sanhedrin, but the Chinuch famously speaks about this. Kol asher yerucha. That we listen to the rabbis. There's an opinion that's only talking about the Sanhedrin, that they have the ultimate authority in Jewish law. The Chinuch says, though, it's for all rabbis of all generations. I don't mean all rabbis, I mean all great rabbis. We're going to see that clearly in the Torah. Somebody who says that they're a rabbi means basically almost nothing, just because they said it. But Nachman's going to get into some strong concepts soon, but the importance of rabbinic authority being from real Masorah, and making sure that the Masorah is not just passed down to anybody. And really those that are in the derech emtza isa, that are really in the straight path, making sure that things are not really veering in weird directions. That would be a good, an important thing to consider. If you go to a rabbi and they start telling you to do all sorts of way extreme things, rabbi, I sort of quoted like that, then it could be you should be running away. All sorts of strange, chumras. Doesn't mean that it's a problem if they're doing it, if it's healthy. If they tell you to do it, and if that for sure is not your derech emtza isa, whatever you do, you call the rabbi up while you're on the boat with your family. Should I go pray in a quorum of 10 Jewish men? You should know, like I'm on a boat, my grandmother's, she's been like not feeling well. Even my great-grandmother's here. It might be the last time that I'm going to see her. And she's going to be leaving early from the trip. Yeah, you should leave right now to make sure to go. I don't know. It's not so pashut. It's really not so pashut. Be very careful of wild chumras. And also wild kulas. You have to be careful on both sides. Yeah, as long as it's a kosher animal, like you could eat it. I don't think they shechted it. But it's lamb. Like, what's the problem? I'm sure you could eat it. There's a lot of things on this coolest side you have to be careful of.
What if you like Rabbi Akiva, an arrow, shakita?
If you could convince me that the shochet knows how to shecht through bow and arrow in a kosher way, they say Esav knew how to do it, then we have what to talk about. But I don't think that that's really in the Masorah anymore.
This page is really cool. Like when it's this has a center pillar. Like there's the right and left side, and 3 pillars to each side, and then you need the middle balance of both.
These are the spheres. The spheres are divided into 3 columns, and you need to have a right side, a left side, but it's all about getting to the middle. It's all about being able to assess. Okay, I see things on this side, I see things on this side. Let me weigh out all the options. Somebody who's a real adjudicator of law has to know how to do this. This is where we're getting to mishpat. Means I have to see both sides and see what's the middle path. I have to consider all the options, and then I have to see, so how do I paskin? We're going to get a lot into psak in this Torah. How to paskin.
It reminds me of Malchus, how it kind of refines them and chooses what to shine, like the moon reflects the sun.
Yes. You see that it doesn't have the exact shine. It really takes from everything and then shines forth the balance of the entire picture.
Can you give me an example of choosing middle?
Sometimes you have to be lenient. Sometimes you have to be strict. And the middle path is, how can I navigate my life that I am not being too lenient and I'm not being too strict? Let's give maybe an example for, I want to get an education. I want to get an education because having a profession is an important thing in this world. Well, one school that I would go to has just pure party, and they have not so much religious life, but they seem to have a reputation for getting people jobs. But I'd really be being very lenient on the things that I'm exposed to, and the things that I'm just walking to class. You have to walk through basically like a beach scene. But they have good education. Whereas maybe another situation, it's I'm going to be super strict. I'm not going to expose myself to anything. I'm going to do everything online. Is there a middle path? Is there maybe a education that would be healthy?
Torah.
Is there some middle path? Because maybe if I'm being too strict, I'm not making the relationships that are important when you're developing your profession. You have to be able to consider all sides of the story. And these are things that really require you to be a person who can think through all options. Here's one. You want to be very lenient and go to a restaurant. If family members come and there's a restaurant and it's, let's call it not such a good hechsher. But it's very close, it's very convenient. On the other side, there's a very good restaurant, but it's like a 2-hour drive. And you tell your family members, like, this is great kosher restaurant. They're like, yeah, like, how far is it? Oh, it's like 2 hours away. But then there's one that's like a good hechsher, not this crazy chumrah hechsher that you would want. And it's like 15 minutes away. It's not 5 minutes away. 15 minutes, not 2 hours. Which one do you pick? Restaurant number 1, 2, or 3?
1.
1?
3.
The zero hechsher?
Oh no, we just said it's pretty close to action.
It's like 5 minutes, but it basically,
5 minutes.
when I say there's no hechsher, it's like, there's no hechsher. But it's like vegan, you know.
You have a picture of the Baba salad.
Except the bug part in the salad. And the picture of Baba Sali and the Lubavitcher Rebbe on the wall.
So we can we do barbecue or we special show go to the restaurant?
Okay, so maybe that's also an option. And maybe come to me, I'll make it's a little bit more work for you. You have to go, you also have to know, will they be happy with such an arrangement?
Will you see Rabbi do this like a
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But you have to know yourself. Are they providing a lot of kulas that for somebody who, God forbid, would eat treif, it's a good thing that they're relying on at least some das yochid, some amount of halachic authority, but we don't generally rely on das yochids. But for somebody who would eat treif, it's better for them. But you who don't eat treif, you don't want to rely on a das yochid for the shchita or for the truma meiser, etc. And therefore for you, that would be a big kula. Being too lenient. But for somebody else, it's a gift that it exists. Because they would eat mamish treif, God forbid. So here the Rebbe says, when you listen to the Chachamim, the way the Torah refers to the Chachamim is don't veer to the right or to the left. What's Reb Natan saying? Because the tzaddikim are the middle path. That's why real tzaddikim should be able to give you a middle path. And the Rosh Yeshiva is very big on this, is that be careful when you go to a tzaddik and ask for psak, because he will give you the best psak according to how he understands the question. It's very important. Are the tzaddikim Urim V'Tumim? You know what the Urim V'Tumim is? Like the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol? Are they just drawing down prophecy, like the days of old? If they're the Arizal, yes. But if they're not, they'll give you the best answer based on how they understood the question. There are certain tzaddikim in our generation, big people. I had a personal situation, that I went to Rav Gamliel, Rabinovich, Shlita, maybe one of the greatest Kabbalists in the world. Rav Gamliel, big person. And he meets people all the time. You can go to his home. He sits on his big chair, this big Yud-Kei Vav-Kei behind him. He's like in his robe, he's like having lunch, schmoozing with you. He's a Kohen. He likes to give out gifts to people, and honey and like coins that, he did all sorts of Kabbalistic stuff with. And I asked him a certain question back in the day. So I know, like sit in his chair, like look at you like this, and it's like also. So he said to me in the early days, he said, for you, I want you to go and visit my friend, Rabbi Samuels, because he understands more Anglo mentality. Better than me, he's my Rosh Yeshiva of the great Yeshiva, the Mekubalim. We're like partners in it. But he'll be able to understand where you're coming from better than I can. And therefore, I want to defer my psak to him, to Rabbi Samuels. And I thanked the Rebbe, I thanked the Tzaddik, and I went to Rabbi Samuels. And I was very thankful that Rabbi Samuels and I have been able to be connected through these years. Because I spoke to him in English, and he understands the Anglo mentality.
He's asking what's Anglo.
English speaking. The English speaking world. He understands it better. He understands where Americans are coming from and Canadians. He understands better. Therefore, he'll be able to give you a better psak that'll be a middle psak, because he'll see the background of where you're coming from better. I think that's one of the amazing things about the Rosh Yeshiva, is the Rosh Yeshiva is so relatable to our situation. And he'll speak it out with you, the whole story. And we'll end with this, that the Rosh Yeshiva always speaks about why did Sanhedrin need to know 70 languages? And you cannot have a Matargumon. You cannot have somebody translating in Sanhedrin. So Sanhedrin needed to know everything. So he said the simple pshat, mamish, is because the Sanhedrin has to be able to relate to everybody. There's certain nuances. If you don't speak Dutch, then you can't pick up what that person's really saying. Even if you put into Google Translate, how good of a translation do you really get? Even all your AI translations, there's certain nuances that you just miss if you don't speak the language, for real. So Sanhedrin had to know all the 70 languages because they had to be able to pick up on the nuances of where human beings are coming from. And then the Rosh Yeshiva always goes on and says, why do we always find that the rabbis in the Talmud are going on boat trips? They weren't into cruises, I'll tell you that much. They had better things to do. And he always answers, and this hit me so beautifully when he said this. They were always visiting Jewish communities all around the world because they wanted to understand where everybody's coming from. I always find this myself when I travel, when I go to local communities, and you just see the way that Yidden live. You go to the Sephardi Community Center, Battis and Steeles, and you just see how the Yidden are living. You see how people run their minyan. You pick up on the vibes of what people are going through. You get a lot more insight of just how people are living their lives, what they're going through, and it's so different from different places. It's all the same Shulchan Aruch, but you're picking up on like the nuances of like what community life is there, that because you have such an awareness of the pulse and the beat of world events and local communities, you could paskin for them better. You can hear the whole story, and you can give them the derech ha'emtza'isa, you can give them the derech ha'beinani, you can give them the middle path based on where they're coming from, and it'll be different for somebody else. What will be balanced for one person will be unbalanced for somebody else. Somebody in Budapak, if you give them a psak in one way, that'll be very unbalanced for somebody in New Rochelle potentially. And therefore you have to really know where are people coming from. And the real tzaddikim can give you the middle path based on where you're at. And even deeper than this is that we have to learn ourselves the middle path. We have to trust that the tzaddikim are giving us the middle path, and we have to also be able to find the middle path. And you can go and speak things out with tzaddikim. And big tzaddikim, you'll notice, the big tzaddikim, they'll want to just let you come to the psak yourself. They might speak things out for you. When it comes to real life decisions, it's not just like a straight halach and shulchan aruch. Is the spoon that fell into the cholent, which is a milchika spoon, treif? Something which is not like a straight halacha mefurish. It's not a toiba devar halacha, it's something straight. If it's not that, if it's like a real life decision, big tzaddikim really want you to come to the psak. You're smart enough to go and talk to them about it because they see things in a very wide way. So a big tzaddikim, the Lubavitcher Rabbi, he was holding in everything. He could speak about any topic. And he was meeting Jews from all over the world. He was meeting humanity. He had his finger on the pulse of all of humanity. He understood mamish everything. And because of that, he could speak to things. Bless you. And that's what Torah Umada really means. Torah Umada has been mistranslated as being like a stockbroker, Herlun's Torah. Torah Umada means you have to know Torah and know everything else also. The whole world. You need to know everything. How stocks work. How government works. How politics work. How money works. How communities work, how psychology works, how human beings think.
How do you learn all this?
You have to have your finger on the pulse. To visit. You have to speak to people, to learn things. You have to learn Kabbalah. Because Kabbalah is like the superstructure of what's to the right, what's to the left, what's to the middle, what's balanced. So Rav Nachman Mirz Hashem is going to take us through that. And one of the big things is that you have belief in the tzaddikim, as we'll learn. Because the big tzaddikim are balanced and healthy. We should be zoicher Rabbi to be connected to the tzaddikim amitim. We're just opening up this Torah, and the Rebbe just ends this little section. V'al kein ali dezeh yoytze hamishpat barur bebechinas mishpatei emes. And when you could have connection to the tzaddikim, that you're not straying to the right and straying to the left, then you'll come to true mishpat, clear mishpat. You'll be straight in this world. We should be zoiche mamish, and be zoiche v'seche zene eineinu b'shuvacha l'tzion. We should be zoiche mamish to come back, all of us, not just physically to tzion, but spiritually. We should mamish be here, v'hei Hashem, mamish be present in the Holy Land, and living up to Torah Hashem Tamima, Amen ve'Amen. Okay, Rabbi Isai, Shacharis, called